Megan Smyth is a sales coach and educator teaching women entrepreneurs to sell without apology. A former pre-med student with a background in neuroscience, she helps coaches and consultants generate consistent sales without pushy tactics or social media. Megan's mission is simple: help women earn more so they can have the impact and independence they deserve.
Some of my favorite parts of this conversation were talking about why feeling calm and confident in sales actually starts with your body, not your brain, how to get out of the money equals identity trap, and why a more empathy-based sales approach doesn't just feel better, it actually works better. Whether you're a freelancer like us or a traditional employee, anyone who wants to feel more confident around earning more money will learn a ton from this episode.
And also, we will be on Megan's podcast, Blaze, at the end of the month. So if you like what you hear today, jump over and listen to her podcast, and our episode will be out soon.
Welcome to The Finance Girlies, a podcast for millennial and Gen Z women who are curious about money but have never quite felt at home in traditional finance spaces.
We are Emily Batdorf and Cassidy Horton, podcast hosts, longtime friends, and finance writers for brands like AOL and Yahoo Finance.
Rather than giving you prescriptive advice, we talk about money the way friends actually do, with stories, questions, and a lot of figuring it out in real time. Megan, thank you so much for joining us on the Finance Girlies podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so you and I met a number of years ago in a copywriting program, and now you teach sales. What was behind that switch and what made you want to teach women how to sell?
Yes. So, gosh, it feels like another life, even though it wasn't that long ago. But yeah, I started out my business as a copywriter, and that's where you and I met. And so I was a sales copywriter. I was writing sales copy, so like launch campaigns and sales pages for my clients. And like many of us, when we start our business, I wasn't sure who I wanted to work with, and I was happy to take on literally any client that would have me. So I wrote copy for everyone from like B2B, B2C, product-based, service-based, coaches, larger companies, solopreneurs, like the whole gamut of potential clients. And I worked with men and women at the time, to women-owned businesses specifically. And I started to notice this trend with my women clients, which was that, as I was writing their copy in my intake questionnaire and on our kickoff call, I'd always ask them about like their voice, like, what do you want to sound like? What's really important to you? What are your brand values? Things like that. And over again, I heard the same things from women. They're like, I want my copy that you're writing for me to sell my stuff, but I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to come off as pushy or, manipulative or like sleazy car salesman vibes. I don't want to brag. That was a thing I got a lot because I would ask them for, social proof and testimonials. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to share that. Like, I don't want to share. Or I'd be like, what makes you qualified to, do this type of work? Like, what's your background and experience? And they would have, like a PhD and 12 certifications. And I've helped my clients generate millions of dollars. And they're like, ooh, but I don't know if I want to, like, oh, that's going to be so cringy and braggy to talk about. There's just all this hesitation around sales specifically. And I noticed this trend because it never once came up with my male clients. Not once. In fact, they were usually firmly on the opposite end of the spectrum where they were like adding, things to their sales pages. They're like, rave reviews from clients that didn't exist yet. I'm like, we can't do that, Steve. So it was a recurring theme that I was seeing this discrepancy. And I loved working with these women and, kind of like hyping them up around like, it doesn't need to be salesy or pushy or aggressive for it to sell, for it to be effective for you. And I loved writing their copy. But what I loved even more was seeing that mind shift for them, which was, I can sell this in a way that feels good to me and empowering and also good for the people on the other end and for their clients as well. And so I started slowly shifting. It evolved over time from copywriting to more like strategy and consulting work. And then I was doing the strategy and I realized those blocks were still coming up for people. And that was when I shifted into what I do now, which is, I say coaching, but it really is still a blend of that strategy piece, the consulting side, and also coaching and, moving through some of these blocks in your mindset and your nervous system and like the whole holistic picture around what it takes to actually sell in a way that feels good.
And so to follow up on that, you say that sales is like one of the most important or the most important skills that business owners need to get good at. And so why is that?
Yeah, well, sales, at its most basic element is really just the skill of making money. Like that's what it is, right? And your business needs money to survive. And there's so many entrepreneurs who get into this work because they have a greater sense of mission and purpose. Like they want to help people or they're really passionate about what they do, whether that's, like coaching, healing, writing, whatever it is that they're drawn to, and they just want to do that thing. But in order to do that thing and to keep helping people and living your dream as an entrepreneur, you need to make money, right? You need money to survive. The business needs money to survive and to grow, especially. You can't have one without the other. And I really view sales as like the foundation, and it's like oxygen to a fire, right? Like it can't exist without it. It's that baseline. And it may not be your personal favorite thing. Like very few of us start our businesses because we have this passion for sales or marketing. But the moment you sign up to be an entrepreneur, you sign up to be in the business of sales and marketing. And yes, you can, outsource it and get help in all the things. But that is really such an essential skill, because if you can't sell your product or service, you can't expect someone else to, or AI too these days, right? So that really is crucial, because that cash flow that generates is what gives you the fun money to spend on the things that you really want to do, like, the shiny new website, the team members to support you, and also just to live life comfortably. So it really is, the baseline skill that I see in business.
Yeah. Whenever you hear someone say, I hate selling, whether it's a client, a peer, a friend, what do you say to them, and how do you help them reframe that narrative?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I like to ask what specifically they hate about it, and to dig a little deeper into that, because I think this sort of resistance to sales can manifest in different ways for different people. And I hear two things there. The first is there's some sort of fear, and people are saying I hate it, because it's easier to say that than I'm afraid to put myself out there. I'm afraid of rejection.
Yes.
I'm afraid of what people might think of me, right? If you're someone who you feel like sales is pushy or sleazy, underneath that, the deeper layer is I'm afraid of how people are going to interpret me, how I'm coming across. I don't want people to see me as salesy, right? Is what's underneath that. So first, I like to dig a little deeper and to see specifically what's coming up for them. And then also to let them know that, in a lot of cases, people feel that way because they've had a bad sales experience as a buyer. They've experienced those sleazy sales tactics, and they don't want that, right? And that's only natural. No one wants to be the pushy used car salesman. And so just giving them, permission and showing them proof that it doesn't have to be that way, right? So the second thing I hear is that they haven't found a method or a strategy that works for them, is really what I hear at the end of the day. Because once you find a strategy that works for you, that feels good, and to your clients, you don't feel like that anymore. And so oftentimes people, they say they hate sales in general, but what they really hate is the way that they've experienced sales in the past, the way they've maybe been taught by other people or pressured to show up in a certain way that is more pushy or aggressive, or that, for example, relies on social media. I never sold on social. That's what I teach now, is selling without social. It's totally 100% optional in an online business to be on social media. But a lot of people feel this pressure to show up in a certain way. I should be doing this, or I have to be doing this, or this person on the internet or this coach told me I had to do it this way, and it doesn't feel good to them. And so that's what they hate, is that one specific method, but it's all being lumped in together.
Yeah. It's also such a good reminder that there are truly so many different ways to build an online business, to sell in an online business. And if there are these very common strategies that you think of whenever you think of, oh man, I need to start selling, you don't have to necessarily prescribe to those if they don't feel true for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was my experience with sales in the beginning. Was I was taught that I had to be on social, and that never felt good to me. I hated social media marketing, and I would literally just feel dread at the thought of it. And it wasn't until I discovered, other strategies and started experimenting, I was like, oh, it doesn't actually have to be this way. Sales doesn't have to feel terrible.
Yeah. What are some of the strategies that you recommend, or that you see work for your clients the most that aren't social media?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, I think overemphasize social media in this space. Like I said, it is this non-negotiable, when in the reality, there are thousands of ways you could market your business. There were thousands of ways you could market your business before social media ever came on the scene. And so in terms of what works for my clients, they're out there using dozens of hundreds, if not hundreds, of different strategies. In-person networking and event speaking, retreats, teaching, teaching guest master classes and other people's programs, podcast interviews, starting their own long form content channel like YouTube or podcast. Substack is really popular right now. I have quite a few clients using that very effectively. And then also just good old fashioned like relationship building with people and outreach. Like I think people underestimate direct outreach as a strategy. Like it doesn't need to be this big, complicated, like entire sales funnel, right? Like you can just go and connect with people, whether they're people, warm leads in your network, potential referral partners, or totally cold leads. Your entire marketing strategy could be as simple as, consistently reaching out to new people every week or every month. And that's that, right? And that is very effective process I teach specifically for my clients to do that. And a lot of them see really incredible results that way.
Yeah. I know even as freelancers, like Emily and I have been freelancing full time, earning what we feel like is good money for us for years and have never been on social media to try to attract freelance clients. It's for the most part been like cold pitching, warm pitching, or like referrals once you have a good enough client base where word of mouth can kind of spread about you. So that's such a good reminder.
Yeah, that was how I built my copywriting freelance business too, was mostly just through cold pitching and warm pitching, like you said, and later referral partnerships. I think there is obviously there's a technique to that, and that is a skill in and of itself of how to do that effectively. But it's a really great option for most people, I would say, is the direct outreach route.
Yeah. It's funny though, because neither of us used social media for our freelance writing businesses, but as soon as ever since we started this podcast, every, I don't know, couple of months we have a conversation like, should we be on social media? And we're not really, but it's something we keep coming back to, like, should we? Do we want to?
It's so interesting because I went through this exact same thing. And for me, not being on social media was really like a values-driven decision that I just made. Like for me personally, I was like, I don't like the way this impacts my life, my, quality of life, my mental health, all the things. Like I wasn't getting any positives out of social media. It was only contributing negatives to my life. So I made the decision to step back from it. And it also wasn't helping my business. Like I said, it's not where my clients were coming from. So I stepped away from Instagram in 2024 in my copywriting business. And just wasn't on it for months and years. And when I started my podcast, I also felt like sort of this pressure come back of like, well, I have guests on and I want to be promoting them and this and that, and kind of getting sucked back into the vortex. And, I had a VA posting for me, so I didn't personally have to be on there. But at a certain point, it just came back to what am I really doing? Like, what is the return on investment for my business? And again, is this aligned with my values? And I don't think, it's not right or wrong. If someone's listening to this and they love social media marketing, amazing. Like you do you. Keep doing it, right? If it's working for you. But I think we have to be really mindful of that word should in our business and our sales and marketing strategy. That's something I hear all the time from people. Is I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And you really want to look closely at that because, anytime you say that, there's something underneath that again. And that tells me that's not really what's most aligned for that person.
It's kind of the same thing in personal finance. Like anytime you're saying, I should do this, I should save this much, I shouldn't buy this thing. It's like, what's really behind that? It's very
and I also just like to ask the question, like, but do you want to? Like my clients are like, oh, I should be posting on social media or I should have some presence there to just like quote unquote maintain signs of life, right? I'm like, but do you want to? Like, and they've never asked themselves the question. They're like, oh, actually, no, nothing in me wants to do that. And there's this assumption that it's good for our business. And, I understand the concern around that. So in that case, I'm like, well, great. Like, show me the receipts then. Like, where's the data? Like, are your clients and leads actually coming from social media? Are you sending traffic back to, your website or an email list or a platform you actually own? Because again, if it's working for you, that's a very different conversation than pouring this time and energy into a platform that's not yielding results. Those are going to be two different, strategies moving forward. So I think you have to start with the data and also just do that check-in of like, do I even want to be doing this? Because the whole point of being an entrepreneur and having your own business is that you get to make those decisions for yourself. And there's nothing in business you truly, like we use these words have to, right? I have to do this, I have to do that. There's very few things in business you have to do, right? Like you have to pay your taxes. You don't have to be on TikTok. Like those are two different things. So I think it's important to just differentiate between them because the way that I teach is really rooted in science because that's my background. And from like a psychological point of view, if you hate doing something, or even if you just feel kind of like meh about it, you're never going to do it consistently. You're never going to do it effectively or really well. I mean, I was never great at social media marketing or Instagram because I didn't enjoy it. I was inconsistent. It was kind of like half-assed. It felt really forced and unnatural to me. And then it was like, oh, it's just shocking that this isn't generating massive results for my business when, obviously we are much more effective and consistent with things that we truly enjoy. So I think that also needs to be at the heart of anyone's sales or marketing strategy of what do you actually enjoy doing? And let's build a strategy around that rather than trying to impose what someone else tells you should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So speaking of your background in neuroscience, what is happening in our brains when like these scary things happen? So like your income dips, you miss out on an opportunity, you like try to negotiate a raise and it doesn't happen, or like you pitch a new client and you get rejected. Why do we panic? Even if we know like on a logical level, we have money in the bank and we're going to be fine.
Yeah. The short answer is that even though it's not logical, the brain isn't logical. The human brain, we all like to think we're these, evolved human beings and we're so logical and analytical. But the reality is the deeper parts of our brain that actually have more control over us, the really old part of our brain from an evolution perspective isn't logical. And the, emotional or instinct-driven brain is much more powerful than the logic, analytical-driven brain. And so there's two sides to this. There's like what's happening in your brain and what's happening in your body. And they're very related, of course, because, the signal's being sent both ways. And the short story is, money is tied to safety for most people. And so, if you, for example, your income dips or a client says no or you're rejected, and there's especially when it comes to like a sales scenario where money gets involved, you might know logically that, you'll be okay. You have X amount of dollars in the bank. There'll be another client or another opportunity. But your brain, your body is interpreting that as a threat to your safety and to your survival. And so it's literally sending a signal of like, we are under threat, right? Like we need to do something here. And your heart starts racing, your blood is pumping, you're maybe like flushed in the face. Like people have all kinds of different reactions to this. The way that anxiety shows up for a lot of people or stress, it really varies from person to person. In a lot of cases, especially if you tend to be a more anxious or stress-driven person, there's a center in your brain called the amygdala. It's super, super tiny, about the size of an almond, and people call it the fear center of the brain. And so when you're in that scenario, your amygdala gets super activated. And it's just sending all these signals to the rest of your body and creating that stress and anxious response. And so again, you might know logically, and the logical part of your brain knows that, but that older emotion-driven part is what's going to take over in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. And I can like, when you were talking about like what's happening in your body, like maybe you get flushed and your like heart starts beating. I can like literally remember like initial client discovery call from like, I don't know, probably my first year in business that just like went so poorly and my body was like, ah! Like it just, that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had those situations too, especially like in the early days. Oh my God, I felt like every sales call was like panic attack waiting to happen. It was like my whole sense of safety and identity just hinged on this client saying yes to me. And that's a really scary place to be. And so if you've ever, experienced that, I think it's important to separate the physical reaction in your body and your nervous system from the, the mindset of it. Because I think sometimes people, at this point, most of us are familiar with mindset work and, questioning limiting beliefs and questioning the fear. And like, it's one thing to, before you go into a sales call, just repeat like positive affirmations, like selling a service and like, I'm just doing my best. And it doesn't mean anything if this person says no, but that's really difficult to override like the body's reaction, which again is much stronger than that logical part of you that knows better. And I hear that a lot from clients. They're like, I know that this doesn't matter as much as, I'm making it matter, right? Like, I know I'll be okay, but it still feels really scary in the body. And so it's important to address that first and kind of calm your body back down and get to that place of safety and, regulation in your nervous system before coming back in with like the logical part of you. Because actually what's happening when your body's in that state, when you're in fight or flight mode, your sympathetic nervous system is activated. And part of that bodily response is that blood flow is literally going away from the logical part of your brain down into your extremities so that you can run away from a threat, the literal flight response. And so without that blood flow to that part of our brain, we can't access critical thinking, creativity, problem solving. That part of your brain literally goes offline. And so there's no chance of, responding to that scenario effectively like a calm, mature adult, right? It's just going to be this like fear response that comes out. So you have to calm your body down first so that you can, respond in the way that you want to from that maybe more intelligent place.
Yeah, I can also think back to so many situations in my life where I'm like, my body is having a much bigger response than my logical brain is telling me that it should have, and yet I don't know how to calm my body down.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you, there's lots of different ways, and I have some fun
Mhm.
hacks for this from back in my pre-med days that we learned when we were studying the nervous system. It's so fascinating. It's like a cheat code
Mhm.
to your own body once you
Mm.
learn this stuff. The simplest and most accessible way for most people is literally just deep breathing. And I
Mhm.
know it sounds so cliche and basic, but it really does work. So, inhaling for a count of 4 and then really slow, elongated exhale for like an 8 count. You can do that like literally just for 2 minutes. You start to bring your body back into the parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest and much calmer. We get some of that blood
Mm.
flow back. So that is the simplest one, but there's all kinds of other fun alternatives that can also activate that slow down, more calm state. My personal favorite is putting something cold on the back of your neck. That actually stimulates your vagus nerve, which runs down the back of your neck and controls that parasympathetic nervous system. So that's a really like quick and easy hack for people too. Is like cold face cloth or ice cube on the back of your neck can bring you right out of it.
Okay. Thank you for those. I will be putting those in my back pocket.
Yeah, a little bodily cheat code for, before your next sales call or in that stressful situation in general.
I know, I know. Yeah, those are such good things to know. I remember, especially in my first year of business, it's like if I had a discovery call that day, as soon as I was going to sleep dreading it, I was waking up
Mhm.
dreading it, feeling so nervous before, and like an emotional, just like wave of come down afterward. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
else I can do today. My body was
The
just
whole
in fight or
days,
flight.
yeah.
Yeah, for like
Yeah,
this 15-minute phone call.
I know, it's so and again, like, part of us is like, "This is ridiculous. Why am I reacting this way?" But it's like,
Mhm.
it's real. So you wanna, like I think
Right.
the worst thing you can do is kinda, like, just ignore it and
Yeah.
hope that it goes away, right? Like, you wanna actually address it and give your body the chance to, like, feel whatever it wants to feel and work through
Mhm.
that and, like, move that sort of fight or flight energy through your body. And, when I teach sales calls particular, I teach like the hype phase beforehand. So you go into it feeling really calm, really good, regulated, but also like excited and like that confidence feeling of you've got this. And then also the post call phase is
Mm.
equally important and to just like check back in with yourself. Because I think a lot of people like, just going about your day and you just jump on a sales call. And it's like, really does take some effort to kind of switch states like that and get into that
Mhm.
really like positive mindset and also feeling good in your body before and after.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, speaking of your neuroscience background, it is so evident that you are incredibly smart. And I'm enjoying hearing all of these tips and things. I do
Thank
not have a
you.
science background. So I'm like, Megan is so intelligent. You were on a pre-med path before you switched into entrepreneurship. So how did leaving like a more quote unquote socially approved version of success affect like your beliefs on stability or money or like what having a real career is supposed to look like?
Yeah. So, like you said, I was studying pre med and I was so certain I was going to be a doctor. Like that was the path for me. I was so set on it. And by my third year, when my friends were writing the MCAT, like the admission test for med school, I had decided to not just not apply and not write the test, but I booked a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia for 3 months, went backpacking with my sister and announced to my family, like, I'm not going to go to med school and I'm actually going to start an online business writing, which as you can imagine, they were thrilled by. I did end up
Yeah.
going back. I finished that degree and I loved what I studied. Like part of me still, you can probably tell when I talk about it, I do love this stuff. Like I'm still
Yeah.
fascinated by it and interested in it. I just decided I didn't want it to be my whole life in the way that it would have if I had gone down that path. And I had other interests that I wanted to explore. And that's why I ended up starting my business. But I did have this pressure because I was on this path to success and it was very clearly laid out for me. And the program that I was in was quite exclusive. And pretty much everyone who went through this undergrad program, they got into med school. It was like a fast tracked program, like, almost 100% acceptance rate from this undergrad to the top med schools in the country. I could have gone after like just 3 years and been a doctor by, 23 or something ridiculous. And so I also I will specify that I have a late birthday and I started university at 17. So it would have still been a decent amount of time. But the point was like I had this path laid out and I felt like I had to really justify leaving it because I was like
Mm.
I was so lucky to even be, given this opportunity to be like in this program in the first place and so many people would have like killed to have been like where I was and have all these doors open to them. And I was basically just saying no thanks. And so I felt some guilt around that. I felt guilt around like, being able to provide for my family if I had gone down this other path and, that stability and just all of it. And so I did put this pressure on myself. It was totally self-imposed. My family was not, my family was very supportive. It was 100% self-imposed on me that, I had planned to be a trauma surgeon, and I knew how much a trauma surgeon makes. And I was like, well, I need to make that amount or more in my business and working like half the hours. Like that was the goal I set for myself, totally arbitrarily. But I did put so much pressure on myself, especially in like the early years of my business of like, I have to be successful. There is no other alternative. I will accept no other alternative. I need to make this work. And I need to sort of prove to people and to myself that I made the right call going down this alternative path. So yeah, that definitely impacted my own relationship with selling the first couple of years.
Wow.
And how, like, a few years out, many years out, how do you feel about the transition? Like, were you able to hit some of those arbitrary goals, or have you changed your mindset around whether you need to hit them?
Yes, I have. I mean, I've hit the goals, but at the same time, it's an interesting relationship in that when I first started, I felt like I needed to. There was this
Right.
attachment to it. Like, I need to make this amount of money or I won't be okay. And that's not really a healthy mindset to have. Like, I it was so wrapped up in my identity, the amount of money that I was making or how good I
Yes.
was at sales. And so I've really learned to let that go and detach from the outcome. And so now when I set goals, it's from more of a relaxed point of view of like, well, this would be fun. Like, that's something I want, but I don't need it. Like, I'm okay without it. And I think that is the most powerful place to come from, especially in sales, is that sense of detachment, because too often we get in this trap of, I need this client, I need to hit this number. And I think just coming back to like, your own sense of being okay with or without it, and knowing, your identity is so much more than that, and having faith in yourself is a very different place to come from of like, yeah, I want this opportunity. Like, it would be really fun. It would be great to hit that goal, whatever, but I don't need it. Like, I'll be okay either way, regardless. So that has definitely shifted for me over the years.
I feel like you are speaking to my soul right now. That feels so relatable to me because the last time I had therapy, I was talking to my therapist about why do I find so much of my identity and like how much money I'm able to
Yep.
earn for myself when truly it doesn't matter. Like I have a cash cushion built up. Like I have invested plenty of money for my age to like get to traditional retirement age and be okay. Like I have all of these systems of like quote unquote protection in place. And yet I still feel like if I don't earn X amount of money, which tends to be an arbitrary number in my head, then like I have somehow failed like as a person.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I want to normalize that because I think a lot of people listening will relate to that. And I mean, it's not your fault, right? Or anyone's fault. That is the way society conditions us in a lot of ways.
Right.
But it's this never ending, like, or ever moving goalpost, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know about you, but all I wanted when I first started my business was to hit six figures. That was like the mythical milestone. If I could just make six figures, then I'd be successful. Then I would feel okay. Then it would feel like enough. And then what happens? You hit six figures and you're like, great, let's hit 250 or whatever the next milestone is. You don't even pause. And it just keeps going and going. And so that was really actually around the time I hit six figures was when I started to really slow down and question that and be like, are you actually enjoying the journey? Are you setting these goals because you want to or because you feel like you have to? Because if that's the case, like, we're outsourcing our sense of safety, of enough, of being okay, of being confident and worthy and all this. We're outsourcing that and we're putting it on the money, on the goal, on our external circumstances, which is a very different place to be than insourcing it. And that coming from within you of knowing like, I'm okay, I'm good, I've got myself. Like, I don't need this external thing to feel okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the approach of just being like, does this feel fun? Does this feel exciting? And letting that kind of be your internal compass for what you say yes to and what you don't.
Yeah, because there really is no amount of money. Like, we all think, if I $1 billion, like, I'd feel so much better. But there are people out there with billions who aren't happy, who don't feel like it's enough, who are still stressed and worried. Like, there's people making way more money than I am out there who are stressed about their income and they don't feel like it's enough, right? Like, so it's not the amount, it's not the number in the spreadsheet or in the bank. Like, that really does have to come from you.
Speaking of, I just want to tell a quick story. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, Cassidy and I were talking about, she had a really big workload for the month and was like, why do I do this to myself? Like, I took on too much work, but I'm making all this money. And so we were kind of talking about like, okay, how much is enough? Like, how much do you really need? And she like came up with this number. And I think I was like, okay, well then that's your number. Once you like hit that, then maybe you can say no to future assignments. And she was like, but actually let's add like $2,000 to that.
A little buffer room.
It was so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can
Anyway.
relate to that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm really excited to ask you this question because I just feel like this is me. So you say people don't have to become a different person to sell well,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually the opposite. But I don't know. Someone like me, I'm like, yeah, but I can't do sales. I
Okay.
can't negotiate. I can't earn more. So like,
Okay,
what parts
so
of
watch this, Emily. Why do
yeah?
you
Okay.
feel like you tell me? Why do you feel like someone like you? What does that mean? Like, what traits specifically are you thinking of?
Like I've never really thought about this. Okay, let me think.
Sorry, I've turned the tables. Now I'm interviewing
No,
you.
it's good. It's good. I
Mhm,
don't think I'm a particularly assertive person, and in
mhm.
my mind, like selling is like what we were talking about at the beginning. It's
Yeah.
like an assertive thing.
Yes. So
Guess
would
that's
you
part of it.
say, how would you describe yourself then? Do you feel like you're more like introverted? You better at listening? Like what comes up? How would you describe your kind of style?
Yeah, more introverted. Yeah, I think of myself as like a really good listener and like not. I don't know. I'm like not happy about saying this, but like I'm not someone who's like this is what I need, this is what I want, in a way that I
Yeah.
think a lot of women probably can relate to, but like
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it's healthy, but I think I relate to that too.
Yeah. So less assertive, more kind of open or accommodating to other people.
Yeah.
Sounds like,
Uh-huh.
okay. Yeah. Good at putting other people's needs first, empathetic, good listener. Okay. We're hearing lots of good stuff here. So what if I told you that sales is actually 90% listening? That's the most essential skill you could have to be effective in sales is listening. Because at the end of the day, what any human being wants, regardless of who you're selling to, what the market is, what the situation is, all people really want at the end of the day is to feel seen and heard. And if you can master the skill of effective listening, which it sounds like you already have, you are 90% of the way there. And as far as being, assertive or aggressive, let me just ask you this. Do you love when salespeople are really aggressive and assertive with you? Is that effective for you?
No,
No.
I hate it.
So what does that tell you?
It's not a good strategy.
It's not
Probably
super
for a lot of
effective.
people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if you think about like a positive sales experience you've had in the past, I don't know, like a business mentor or coach or like a retreat or something fun you invested in, if someone was kind of quote unquote selling you on that, I'm curious, like if you felt like they were really aggressive and assertive, or if you felt more like they were really seeing and hearing you and you just vibed with them because they
Yeah.
listened. Yeah.
The
And
latter,
it was
for
a
sure.
two-way conversation, right? Like that openness, that accommodation, the valuing of relationships and actually, speaking to and hearing the person in front of you instead of trying to impose your opinion. Because I'll tell you this as well, like I said, everyone wants to feel seen and heard. No one likes to be told what to do. Even people who are generally people pleasers and polite, that doesn't feel good. That activates like a sort of a defensiveness in our brains. And so if you come out of the gate telling people what they should do and why they should invest with you and why your offer is so amazing, that naturally makes people lean back. As opposed to, getting on a call with someone, for instance, being like, tell me about what's going on with you. Like, why'd you book this call? What problems, frustrations are you dealing with? Like, how's that showing up for you? How's that going? What are you hoping to achieve? Asking great questions, being a good listener. 95% of sales. Does that change anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds way better. I'm curious, like, I think sales is like a part of like business ownership that I kind of have been like, shied away from. And so it's not something I've like studied, learned about like I have with other topics. Is that primarily how sales is taught? Or like, why does it have such a bad reputation?
Bad
and like,
reputation.
why? Yeah. Do you know why?
I will say it's becoming more popular to talk about this. There's a lot of women in this space who are doing really great work and teaching sales from that empathy-driven perspective, like I talked about. But I would say it's still a minority. Like I do still see, unfortunately, a lot of the really pushy or sleazy tactics out there. And I have clients come to me and they'll say, like, I don't like selling. I'm like, tell me why. Like, tell me about your process and what you're doing now and how it's working for you. And they're like, oh, my last coach told me, like, when I'm on a sales call with someone, I have to get their credit card information like while I'm on a call. And I'm like, well, I would hate that too. That feels super gross. Like, so they just still float around out there. It's coming more into balance with this approach, but it's still in a minority, I would say, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching it and about sharing like my systems and processes and frameworks with people, because I can see like the shift and like the light in their eyes when I'm like, oh no, you don't have to do that. Like you can do it this other way. You can actually just lead with like generosity, connection, building relationships, talking to people. You don't have to manipulate anyone into buying from you. And I think, unfortunately, that is the way it's still taught, and we're getting there. I think it's shifting over time, because the other important thing I think worth mentioning is not only are those tactics, unethical and manipulative, and they don't feel good, but they're also not effective. And we're seeing that, especially as the market changes and shifts these days, that people are really tired of being sold to in that way. And so not only is leading with this empathy and listening approach and really human-centered sales, not only does that feel better to you and it's more ethical for your clients, but it is also going to be more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This reminds me, last April, I purchased a vehicle and I was dreading going to the car dealership because you picture every salesperson being super pushy and all of this stuff. And I was meeting with a man, and so I had all of these assumptions going about how he's going to view me, what he's going to say, all of this stuff. And he was the most nonchalant salesperson I've ever had. I told him from the get-go, I was I just want to test drive this car. I'm not looking to buy anything today. And he was don't you even worry. Here are the keys. I'm not even going to hop in the car with you while you test drive it. Just go test drive it. You don't have to do anything else. Just come give me the keys and you can leave. It's totally fine. And then I test drove it. I came back in and he was like, I know that you're not interested in buying this car today, but you told me that you were also interested in this other vehicle too. So I just printed off some information to give to you. You can just take it with you as you go and continue comparing vehicles. And he was like, but if you are interested in maybe just seeing what a monthly payment would be for this car, depending on how much you want to put down, I could give you those numbers. So you also have them as you go out and compare things. He was truly zero pressure, whatever you want to do. And I ended up buying a car that day.
And did that make you more or less likely to trust him and buy from him? Yeah.
Well, yeah, it did. It felt so low pressure the entire time that I kept being I'll keep going. And at the end of the process, I was this could truly just be his sales tactic. And he knows that this is effective and this is what works. And maybe he's not actually chill and nonchalant inside, but I was whatever. It was a pleasant experience for me. And I have zero regrets. I laugh at that experience. I don't know. Was good. I'm it was effective on me, you not being pushy and aggressive. So
yeah, which I keep thinking of a alternative example when the opposite happened. This one time I thought I was getting on a coffee chat with somebody who I connected with on LinkedIn. Just quickly realized she was trying to sell me a $12,000 sales program. And I was I just could not get off that call soon enough. And afterward, I just felt so I don't know.
Blindsided and taken advantage of a little bit.
Advantage of.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious that she was selling a sales program, because it was who does that work on? That hyper, I didn't even know it was a sales call, It was just,
yeah.
I've had that happen to me too. Do you ever get off a call with someone, you're I feel I need to shower. I just feel dirty. It's weird. I don't like that, but it's funny. I love both of those examples, because one of the very first exercises I take people through in my program, Sales Liberation, the first, module is really that foundational identity and mindset shift around sales and how to do this in a way that feels good. And one of the exercises to take people through is I have them map out examples of good buying experiences and bad buying experience. And then just notice what was different and what did that person do or not do that either made you comfortable and really excited to buy from them, or the opposite, right? And so just taking note of what specifically were they doing, and what values came through in either experience, what was it that made you buy from someone and feel good about it, versus a buying experience that really did not feel good, whether you said yes or no, right? You're in that sales experience. And so I think that's worth noting is if you've ever had one of those really terrible experiences, I'm great. Now you have a roadmap of what not to do. You have all these specific examples of I'm never doing that. That feels gross.
Okay. The very last question we want to ask you before you wrap up. You connect sales, or we've heard you connect sales to financial independence and rewriting what power looks like. And so what kind of power do women gain when they stop waiting to be discovered, approved, referred, or picked, and learn how to create income directly?
So I view sales, like I said, as a skill of making money and taking control of your own income in business. And that's why it's so essential because, of course, you can be in business and, you can have word of mouth and referrals and things like that come in. But if you're reliant on that, that is ultimately outside of your control, right? Like you can ask people for referrals, you can hope they send people your way. But aside from sending a couple of polite emails, there's not a whole lot of control there. And your income is really like at the mercy of something you can't control, which is other people. It's another
Mhm.
reason why I'm not big on social media because that is largely outside of your control too. So for me, learning like the skill set of selling is really what I like to, equip my clients with as opposed to, like what's trending on social media or like, the latest webinar funnel or whatever it is. Like I have all the templates and strategies and resources for them, but it's about that deeper underlying skill of knowing how to communicate your value, handle objections, run your sales calls with confidence, like just knowing how to sell and market your services effectively is a skill that will continue to serve you no matter how, the market shifts, the economy changes over times. But if you have that skill, you know how to make money, how to create an income
Mhm.
for yourself. And that really is like true power to be able to, there's nothing more powerful than a woman who makes her own money and is in
Mhm.
charge of that. That's what gives you the power to provide for yourself and your family, to, leave that toxic job or relationship, to move cities, to travel, to just do the things that you want to do. Like that is real freedom and power. And learning how to sell is what essentially, opens that door to you of being in
Mhm.
control of your own income. I always think of the analogy of, if you guys have heard this before, like, if you teach or you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but you teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. I like to think of it as you give one sale to a woman and she's fed for a day, but you teach her to sell and she can feed herself and her family for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is really what it comes down to.
I love it, and I feel like that is the crux of it all. It's the thing that I have personally come back to again and again since being self-employed, like how to get that control over your income because yeah, it can feel great like 1 month or, 1 year when things are just happening and it's not like you're doing good work, but it's not like because you're in control of everything. It's just how it is and then the next year things change and it really is all about like what you said, getting control over your income and your ability to make money.
Yeah.
So,
I think
well
there's
said.
this myth that working for yourself needs to be like inherently unstable and totally
Yeah.
unpredictable and like you're at the mercy of all these factors and things can change so
Yes.
quickly. And absolutely, like, you're never gonna make like when people will say like consistent 10K months or consistent 20K whatever. It's like you're never gonna make the same amount of money month to month exactly, like to the dollar, even if that's
Mhm.
generally your baseline. Like it's never gonna be consistent in that way. But it's not true that we need to be like stuck in this feast or famine cycle. There are systems you can put in place, sales systems, lead generation systems, and then also having that skill so that if you do lose a client or things slow down or whatever happens, you know exactly what you need to do to go out and get another one. You have the confidence and the skill set to go do it.
Yeah, there have been several times, I think in both of our businesses, but I'll just speak to mine where things have shifted for whatever reason, and I feel like I've lost the bulk of all of my clients. I can think of two
Hmm.
times in particular. One was the beginning of 2023, and a lot of like layoffs and stuff were happening in the
Yeah.
US. And then another time was just like over the past maybe 6 months to a year, like as more people started experimenting with AI and less people were wanting to hire actual copywriters. And in both of those instances, there was like a few month period where I was like, well, this is just the state of how things are at the moment. Like maybe things will flip around. And then both times I reached a point where I was like, no, actually, you have the skills to go out and find new clients. Like you should
Hmm.
just but like maybe it's time to set aside some time to go find new clients instead of just hoping that they'll find you.
Yeah,
In
hoping
both
is always
times,
a dangerous strategy, right?
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know. In both times, like the amount of effort I had to put in to like get new clients and build my business back up, I'm just like shocked at how the work is out there. Sometimes you
It's
just have
always
to
out
like
there.
it's
Yeah.
always out there no matter what the state of your industry is at the moment or the state
Yeah.
of the
There are
environment. Like
always opportunities.
yeah, and I'm always reminding myself that like I truly only need like 5 to 10 clients max to like make the income that I want to be earning, and I can find 5 to 10 clients to give me that work and pay me the rates that I need to be paid.
Yeah.
And so like the work is out there no matter what.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been there too. And that was actually, what sparked the shift for me into teaching sales later on was I went there too. And you mentioned the early stages of 2023, which I think is exactly when it was for me. I actually lost all of my copywriting clients, every single one within 1 week. So I was in Portugal at the time, I was traveling, and I remember just like laying on the floor of my Airbnb and being like, this is it. Like, it's all over. Like, it was nice while it lasted. This was a fun ride, but like, this is the end, the line for me.
Yeah.
And that was back when I was still trying to like show up on Instagram and everything. And the thought of like posting on Instagram, being like, does anyone want to hire me? Felt so terrible that I started, looking into alternatives. And like I said, for me, part of that was direct outreach but just learning that skill of selling, because up until then I had been reactive mode. I had been totally at the mercy of referrals and word of mouth. And I had never actually gotten proactive and built a proper sales system. And that is what had kept me in feast or famine. And that's why that's now what I teach women to do, is to build that repeatable system so that you always know, like I said, you have your own back. Like, there are leads coming in, there are clients coming in consistently. That doesn't happen by accident. That comes from you building it and taking ownership of that. One of my clients used this analogy that she used to feel like she was sitting in a house just waiting for people to come and ring the doorbell and ask to work with her. And she started working with me, and she was like, I realized, at any point I could just go up to the front door and walk outside, and all these people were waiting to hire me. I had no idea. And, I was just sitting in my house waiting for them to come to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. That's such a good visual.
And it's relatable too. I think our listeners are going to be, if they're anything like me and Cassidy, after hearing this conversation, they're going to be like, I want to learn everything about sales. Teach me to sell. So where can people learn more about sales and connect with you online?
Yes. So the best place to learn from me or just come hang out with me online is my podcast, where I just interviewed Emily and Cassidy, and we had an awesome conversation. The podcast is called Blaze, and I'm sure we can link that conversation in the show notes. That is my sort of primary platform where I hang out, because like I said, I'm just not on social. Although you can always send me an email, or, if you're interested in working with me, I work with a very small number of one-on-one clients, but the best place to learn in higher proximity would be my group program. So that's Sales Liberation, as I mentioned, and you get access to not only, the course content, which is how to build your repeatable sales system step by step, in the entire resource vault of like literally every sales process, framework, system you could ever need for life, for your entire business, and marketing and lead gen too, right? It's all related. But you also get access to me with live coaching, real-time feedback, personalized copy audits, and a really awesome community of other women who are also working on building this skill all together. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Sounds amazing. Thank you, Megan.
Thanks so much for having me.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Finance Girlies podcast. Nothing in this episode is meant to be taken as financial advice.
Please do your own research and talk to a professional if you need advice. If you liked this episode, consider leaving a review. Better yet, send the show to a friend who might enjoy it too. Love ya. Bye.
Nailed it.